We're back! The third episode in the Overrated or Overhated series. It's been 2 weeks since we last did an episode of this, so hopefully you got a few W's in your fantasy league. If not, there's plenty of time left in the season. Don't worry, I'm sure you will bounce back. So, how did we do, Jesse, last episode in our Week 3 overview?
I'd say we did a pretty good job. We guessed Colin Kaepernick and Carlos Hyde for Overrated to go down, and that definitely happened. We had a little mistake in Lamar Miller, but it'll happen. So overall, we did a pretty good job. Take a look at our results. Putting up right now, but just pause the video if you want to keep them up because we want to get right in to Week 5.
Yep.
All right.
So our Week 5 overview, Jesse's going to start us off with our overrated quarterback.
All right. So the overrated quarterback of the week is Andy Dalton. In Week 3 versus Baltimore, he had 30 points. In Week 4 versus Kansas City, he had 18. He's got double-digit points each game this season. Now, when you look at his career and the comparison to how he's been doing this year, it's unbelievable, and it just looks unsustainable. Looks like he's not going to be able to keep it up. The numbers don't match up at all. The percentages, nothing matches up. So there's really no sign of Andy Dalton staying up on the list of quarterback. Also, his next matchups are Seattle, Buffalo, and then he's got a bye week. So, 2 really hard matchups, and then a bye week and taking a break. So then he's going to have a lot of trouble with those. He's had some relatively easy matchups to this point. He's the second quarterback among all fantasy quarterbacks. He's only once ended in the top 10 in all quarterbacks. So the chances of that happening again are slim. So let's tell the viewers to trade Andy Dalton right now. It's a perfect time while he's second on the list of quarterbacks.
And most likely he's probably your second quarterback, so you could get a lot of value for him.
It would be great to trade him right now and get a value for him. So Colin, bring us to overrated running back.
All right, overrated running back, we're going with Devontae Freeman, the running back for the Atlanta Falcons. The reason we chose him is he absolutely exploded after our Week 3 overview. Weeks 3 and 4, he had back-to-back 30-plus fantasy point games.
It's incredible.
Crazy. Each game he had 3 touchdowns. Are you crazy? There's no way he's going to keep that up.
No.
No way. You also have the person he shares his carries with, Tevin Coleman, is coming back this week. Mm-hmm. And that's going to cut into his time, on the field. Tevin Coleman looked great against the Giants before he got injured, and he was their number 1 running back. So I think it's going to end up being a 50-50 split if Freeman goes cold at any point this season. Currently the number 1 running back in fantasy, with so many great names out there, there's no way he's going to stay there.
No.
So great time to trade him now. So we're going to move on to our wide receiver for overrated, and that's going to be Jeremy Maclin. J-Mac, the key signing by the Kansas City Chiefs in the offseason. In weeks 3 and 4, he had over 140 yards receiving. That's pretty great. But the first 2 weeks of the season, weeks 1 and 2 combined, he has a little bit over 10 fantasy points. Weeks 3 and 4 combined, over 30 fantasy points. That raises a little bit of a red flag there for fantasy owners. This guy is kind of going up and down. And I have a feeling that he's just one of those guys that is just, he might disappoint you a little bit. Because Alex Smith is his QB. He doesn't love going to his wide receivers that often. This could just be 2 great games that he had. All of his big games came in losing efforts, which could have an effect because he has Chicago and Minnesota coming up next, which are games the Chiefs should be winning. If they win, if they're up early, they're just going to feed the ball to Jamal Charles, and Jeremy Maclin's not going to get that much.
I really didn't. I didn't like Jeremy Maclin going into this season at all, and a lot of people were in on him. Not me. I don't think he's a good guy to get. Let's move on to the overhated section of the show. So I'm going to start with the quarterback. The overrated quarterback is Matt Stafford of the Detroit Lions. In Week 3 versus Denver, he had about 8 points, and he had about 8 points for Seattle in Week 4. That doesn't really tell the story. He had double-digit points in Weeks 1 and 2. And I think the biggest problem is Calvin Johnson, the star of their offense. He played great D-backs in Weeks 3 and 4. He had some shutdown corners on him. He had Richard Sherman in Week 4, and in Week 3 he had Aqib Talib. And when he's not on his game, Stafford doesn't have much to throw to because he just relies on him so much. So I think it's wise to, there's really not that many D-backs like them in the league that can shut down Calvin Johnson. And he really doesn't have any coming up for the rest of the season. So Matt Stafford isn't going to struggle as much, and neither is Calvin Johnson. So you shouldn't worry about them too much. And I think it would be a good idea to start Matt Stafford really anytime Calvin's on a D-back that can't really shut him down. If you know that Calvin's playing against a D-back that is great at shutting him down, don't start Matt Stafford, but he really isn't for the rest of the season. So Stafford's a good guy to have for the rest of the season. He's got Arizona next, which might be tough, but after that he's got Chicago, Minnesota, and Kansas City. Those are really good matchups for quarterbacks. I think they're among the top half of the league in letting up fantasy points to quarterbacks. So there are signs of decline in Matt Stafford this year because he used to be so great, but he will play better than he has in the past couple of weeks, getting 8 points each week.
Right. Yeah, and for the rest of the season, I would trust having Matt Stafford on my team over Andy Dalton. That's personally, but I'm just saying. All right, so our running back we chose for Overhated is going to be Marshawn Lynch. If you didn't see that one coming, kind of obvious. Marshawn Lynch is having a season that's making everybody's head spin. He's just been on a huge decline from week 1 to week 4. Went from 12 points to 6 points to 2 points to 0 points because he didn't even play in week 4. And because he's had a nagging injury, and we've seen Marshawn Lynch play through a lot of injuries in his time, and he still does great, which means he really must be hurting right now. He's already been ruled out for week 5, and he's expected to return by week 6, according to Pete Carroll. So I think this is a great time to buy low on Lynch because even though he's been banged up this entire season, they're not going to put him back out there until he's 100%. And you have about a week and a half of time to work out a deal. So, I would say if you have enough depth at running back on your team where you can give up a few guys to get Lynch, he could help you moving forward. I think he's a monster. Obviously, he's nicknamed Beast Mode. It's pretty much all you have to say. He can only go up from here. He's at 0 points right now.
Let me ask you a question. I have an offer in one of my leagues. Somebody offered me Marshawn Lynch for Justin Forsett, 1-for-1. I have Justin Forsett. I don't know whether to take that or not. Marshawn Lynch is out this week. Forsett just had a 150-yard rushing game.
Yeah.
Do I do it?
Oh, that's tough. Do you have depth at your running backs?
I have Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Then I got Forsett. Then I got Todd Gurley and Andre Ellington, so that's not so bad.
That's not so bad. I think personally, I would take it. It's tough to give up a guy who just had a great week in Forsett.
And then Lynch, I feel like.
It's risky. I think that could go either way. I think you have enough depth to absorb that hit and take a chance on Lynch. But
viewers, let me know. Comment down below. Should I take that trade? Because I only have probably 1 game left to do it. So let me know this week. Comment down below.
Yeah.
Is that good for me, or is that good for the guy that's getting Forsett?
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways,
help Jesse out there.
Please help me out. I don't know what to do. Let's move on to the overhated wide receiver, Jordan Matthews of the Philadelphia Eagles. In week 3, he played the Jets, had about 5 points, and repeated the 5-point game in week 4 against the Washington Redskins. To be fair, his worst game was against the Jets secondary with Revis, so that's a hard game. Although he didn't get many points, he still was the most targeted wide receiver on the Eagles in both of those games, which is a good sign. He's clearly their number 1 wide receiver and their go-to guy. He had double-digit points in weeks 1 and 2, just like I said about Matt Stafford, so it just kind of seems like a momentarily, kind of just happened recently, but before that they were fine. So it might just be a little bit of a cold stretch, and you don't really have to worry about it too much. Next, he's got the Saints, which one of the worst secondaries in the league. Will allow a lot of points to wide receivers in fantasy. And then they got the Giants. So I think those are really good matchups for Jordan Matthews and the Eagles. He's young. He's a second-year player. He's got great potential. And I think, this is just me, that I think the time's going to come when this guy becomes a wide receiver 1, and that could be this season. That's just me. I think he's a monster. He had a good rookie year last year, and he's already emerging as a number 1 wide receiver for the Eagles. I think if they can get their hands on a quarterback that's really good, he's going to end up being a wide receiver 1 eventually.
And that whole Eagles offense hasn't found its footing yet.
No.
And once they do, everyone's going to
They'll get it
a boost.
together, and Jordan Matthews being the top wide receiver on the team, it's really going to help them out. And DeMarco Murray's struggling too.
Yep.
That could have an effect on how much they run, how much they pass.
They both have a chance to benefit a lot in the coming weeks.
So buy him for low, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So that concludes our Week 5 overview. Remember, don't forget to leave a leave a comment. We always love to hear what you guys have to say. And subscribe if you haven't already. And we're going to bring this to you like we told you every 2 weeks. So before you know it, we'll have our Week 7 overview. I'm already excited.
I'm excited too. You gotta love this series.
It's great.
You fantasy footballers.
We love helping you guys out. Hopefully you do better in these next 2 coming weeks. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.